Ever feel like you have a bottomless stomach?
You know, after you've demolished a large pizza and you're still eyeing the dessert menu.
Well, I want to introduce you to a man whose appetite would make yours look like a tiny snack.
This is the story of Tarrare, a man who lived in 18th century France and possessed a hunger so voracious, so horrifying, it defies all modern understanding.
His life wasn't just a medical curiosity.
It was a real-life body horror nightmare. Tarrare was born in a rural area near Lyon, France, around 1772. From a young age, it was clear that something was very different about him. By the time he was a teenager, he could reportedly eat his own body weight in beef in a single day. Imagine that, a growing boy, weighing maybe 100 pounds, devouring 100-pound side of beef and still feeling hungry. His parents, unable to keep up with his insatiable appetite, were forced to kick him out of the house. He was literally eating them out of house and home. Left to fend for himself, Tarrare fell in with a travelling troupe of charlatans and performers.
He became a sideshow act, a spectacle of gluttony.
Crowds would gather, morbidly fascinated, to watch him perform his talent. And it was far more than just eating a lot of food. He would swallow anything they threw at him.
Baskets full of apples, one after another, gone in minutes.
He'd devour corks, stones, and flint without even chewing.
His act was a sensation because it was both disgusting and unbelievable. Witnesses described him as having an unusually wide mouth, with teeth that were heavily stained but otherwise normal. When he hadn't eaten, his skin would hang so loosely around his abdomen that he could wrap the flap of empty skin from his belly all the way around his waist. But when he ate, his stomach would distend like a massive balloon.
His body was constantly hot to the touch, and he sweated profusely.
And the smell. People said a foul vapor rose from his body, a stench so potent that you could supposedly smell him from 20 paces away.
After a meal, he would become sluggish and lethargic, falling into a trance-like state as his body struggled to process whatever he had just consumed.
His diet wasn't limited to just food or inanimate objects.
This is where the story takes an even darker turn. On stage, he would eat live animals, cats, snakes, lizards, puppies. He would tear them apart with his hands and teeth, swallowing them almost whole, bones and all. One of the most infamous accounts comes from doctors who would later study him.
They watched in horror as he was presented with a live cat. Tarrare reportedly tore open its abdomen with his teeth, drank its blood, and then swallowed the entire animal, leaving only the skeleton, which he would later regurgitate.
You're probably wondering, how is any of this physically possible? That's what the medical community of the time wanted to know. When the War of the First Coalition broke out, Tarrare joined the French Revolutionary Army.
But military rations were a joke to him.
He was constantly starving, performing menial tasks for other soldiers in exchange for their food,
and was often caught scavenging in gutters and garbage heaps, fighting stray dogs for scraps.
He was soon admitted to a military hospital due to extreme exhaustion.
There, he met Dr. Courville and Dr. Percy, two prominent military surgeons who decided to study his condition. They were fascinated and horrified. They tested the limits of his appetite, offering him a meal intended for 15 laborers. Tarrare ate the entire thing without breaking a sweat. They watched him eat a live eel without chewing.
And he even swallowed the doctor's pocket watch, though thankfully they were able to retrieve it later.
From the other end,
this gave Dr. Courville an idea.
A very strange, very military idea.
If Tarrare could swallow things and pass them through his system, could he be used as a spy? A secret career?
They conducted an experiment. They had Tarrare swallow a small wooden box containing a note.
2 days later, the box was recovered from his excrement, the note inside perfectly intact. The plan was a success. Tarrare was officially commissioned as a spy for the army.
His first mission was to carry a secret message to a captured French colonel in a Prussian-held fortress.
Tarrare, ever the showman, believed the message was of great importance. He swallowed the box and, disguised as a German peasant, made his way across enemy lines.
Unfortunately, Tarrare wasn't exactly the James Bond type.
He didn't speak a word of German, and his bizarre appearance and behavior immediately drew suspicion. He was quickly captured by the Prussians. Under interrogation, he was whipped and beaten, but he refused to give up his secret.
Eventually, however, the stress of this situation got the better of him, and he confessed to carrying a message in his stomach.
The Prussians chained him to a latrine and waited.
Finally, after about 30 hours, the box emerged.
The Prussian general opened it, eagerly anticipating a great military secret. The note inside simply read, "Let us know if Tarrare delivered this successfully. It was just a test." The general was so enraged by the pointless exercise that he ordered Tarrare to be hanged.
But at the last minute, he had a change of heart, had him brutally mock executed instead, and then released him back near French lines, thoroughly traumatized.
This experience broke him. He returned to the hospital, begging Dr. Percy to cure him, to make him normal.
He said he would do anything to stop the maddening hunger.
Dr. Percy tried everything he could think of: controlled diets, appetite suppressants like laudanum and wine vinegar, but nothing worked. Tarrare's hunger was relentless.
He would sneak out of the hospital to eat the scraps from butcher shops, fight street dogs for garbage again, and was even caught trying to drink the blood of patients who were being treated with bloodletting.
The hospital staff became increasingly wary of him.
Other surgeons and medical students, however, wanted him to stay, viewing him as a living, breathing medical experiment. But then, the unthinkable happened.
A 14-month-old toddler, a child, vanished from the hospital. The staff immediately suspected Tarrare. There was no direct evidence, but his history of eating animals and his uncontrollable depraved hunger made him the only logical suspect.
The accusation was enough.
Dr. Percy, despite his scientific curiosity, could no longer protect him. Tarrare was kicked out of the hospital for good. 4 years later, in 1798, Dr. Percy was contacted by a hospital in Versailles. Tarrare was there in the final stages of advanced tuberculosis. He was weak, bedridden, and died shortly after. Percy, still obsessed with the mystery, wanted to perform an autopsy.
The other doctors were repulsed by the stench of the corpse, but Percy persisted. What he found inside was as shocking as Tarrare's life.
His gullet was abnormally wide. You could see straight down into his stomach.
His liver and gallbladder were enormous. His stomach itself was huge, covered in ulcers, and filled his entire abdominal cavity.
The cause of death was his illness, but the autopsy revealed a body that was grotesquely, almost alienly, malformed to accommodate his monstrous appetite. So what was wrong with Tarrare?
To this day, we don't really know.
Modern theories suggest he may have suffered from an extreme form of hypothyroidism, which can cause an increased metabolism, profuse sweating, and an insatiable appetite.
Others suggest a damaged amygdala in the brain, which could explain the lack of satiety and the compulsion to eat anything.
Perhaps it was a rare genetic disorder we have yet to identify. Whatever the cause, the story of Tarrare remains one of the most disturbing and bizarre case studies in medical history.
He wasn't a monster in a fairy tale.
He was a real person, a man tormented by a physical curse he couldn't control.
His life was a constant, desperate search for the next meal, a hunger that drove him to acts that blur the line between human and animal. It's a chilling reminder that sometimes the most terrifying horrors aren't fictional. They are buried deep within the strange and unsettling pages of human history.
Thanks for watching.
If you found this story as fascinatingly horrifying as I did, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the strangest corners of the past.
Let me know in the comments what you think might have caused Tarrare's condition. See you next time.